And I think that the Bruins certainly enjoyed that win. I know Jim Montgomery did because, boy, oh boy, did they almost blow that one last night. That would have been as bad a loss as they've had this year if they had not come out with that. And they've gotten shut out by the Flyers. They've had bad games this year, but I don't know. Blowing a 2-goal lead in the third period like that, I don't know that there would have been a worse loss than that if Marchand hadn't saved the day there in overtime, because that was careening towards being you're fired, everybody's fired, get out of here, get out of my face. It was going to be one of those kind of losses.
It is the most dangerous lead in hockey, right?
It is, sure is.
2-goal lead, and it looked that way for them. But, yeah, I do think that may have been the final nail in the coaching coffin of Montgomery. And it's weird to talk about it that way because I've always way back in the day, the first time the Patriots lost to the Giants in the Super Bowl, in the middle of that season, Tom Coughlin was going to be fired. It was like almost accepted that he was going to be fired. And then like they go on a run, they win the Super Bowl, and you're like, ooh, guess we're glad we didn't fire the guy
right
a month ago or 2 weeks ago. And it's such a tenuous nature or whatever relationship. And I think we all think it's going to end in a firing, right? Isn't that, I mean, other than maybe Razor. Razor still seems to be.
Razor's holding out. I trust Scoops Keefe, and he said that the seat was very hot, and I don't know if that cooled it off much last night, but I don't think
you almost blew it. This was more almost
a
blown game than it was a get right, feel good, right the ship. Although I will say, I thought Brad Marchand, forget the final goal. Well, don't forget the final goal because that was a really important goal.
It was a pretty important
goal. I thought he was really active. I thought that was a good sign of maybe a spark has been lit, and I know he talked about, they continue to talk about this thing of thinking. Everybody's thinking, and if you're thinking in an NHL game, you can't play. And he even talked about that last night. But I thought that was a really good sign. Him showing some spark, and I know he took a penalty.
Right as the third period started, I was like, all right, here we go. Just close it out. Oh, penalty.
Right.
Power play goal. Oh, another one. Oh, it's tied.
Oh, yeah. He could have been the GOAT. He absolutely
brutal,
could have been
man.
a little.
He set off that chain of events, yeah.
Yep, and then he got done what he needed to get done in the end, and Lindholm with a great takeaway there to feed him in front of the net. That was great to see those two. And maybe that's part of the spark with Marchand. I don't know. Maybe those guys are going to click because it's been an open talking point with Montgomery that Lindholm and Pasta just didn't. He might have said oil and water, or maybe Fluto wrote oil and water. Like they just didn't click the way everybody thought they were going to click. Well, maybe Lindholm will click with Marchand and spark him.
Yeah, one thing that you kept seeing, and this I think led to some of these goals here, this defensive group, the turnovers are, it's almost every time, like 50-50 when they get the puck back there and try and break it out. I'm expecting a turnover half the time. Yep. I'm expecting that to happen. These are just the ones that were recorded, and sometimes I think they miss some of these. 5 for McAvoy, 5 giveaways, 4 for Lohrei, 3 for Witherspoon. Zadorov had 1, Carlo had 1, Lindholm didn't have any, so good for him. But everybody else just handing it over, repeatedly getting punked on the forecheck. And it's not just against the Panthers. Like, we saw the Panthers do this to them in those 2 games early on in the year, and we both were like, oh, man, like, they really got to do something about that forecheck. Yep. I thought they got big and strong. I thought they were going to be pushing these guys around. Instead, they're getting their pants ripped down here on the forecheck every single time, right? And then you go up against the Calgary Flames, who, I'm sorry, aren't the Panthers. I don't know if they're a bad team. Brian in the email today was like, oh, they're a bad team. I don't know if they're a bad team. I don't think they're that great. But they were getting right after it and making these defenders, these decor, look pretty bad. And this has been going on all year. I mean, really, this has been a thing that they just can't shake. And I don't know where it came from. I don't know if that's a Montgomery thing. I don't know what to attribute that to. I tend to attribute it to, like, toughness. I hate to say it. These are hockey players, but you're turning it over that much in your own end. Or even sometimes in their end. It doesn't. It's very sloppy, and it's a lot of getting pushed off the puck.
Yeah, I do think the D has been the biggest issue for this team all year long. And I think that has hindered the goaltending at times. I think it's hindered the, as you said, ability to transition into the offensive end and have offensive opportunities. I think if there was one thing, if you could do like the Harry Potter magic wand, boom, fix something, the defense is where you would start with this team, because I think that is what's dragging them down and has hindered them. And I don't know what the solution is, because we don't have any obvious reasons to point to for that. I actually think Zadorov has been pretty good. So I don't really know. You don't have a major. It's not like McAvoy's coming off a contract holdout. It's not like there's something specific you can point to. but they need to be better, and I think if they're better, I do think you'll see in both directions, behind them and in front of them, everything else will improve.
Text line is saying Don Sweeney is the one who should be in trouble. It's weird to see how sports reporters and pundits are afraid to call out Sweeney. Who did I call out yesterday, Andy?
Sweeney.
I called out Sweeney. And
by
Neely, for that
extension,
matter.
Neely. Yeah,
and
yeah,
also
yeah.
Cam Neely. And
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think Montgomery should be getting all the heat for this. I think that's really ridiculous to just put it all on him and say, yeah, you know what, Monty, you had the best, you whipped this team into shape, had the best regular season ever 2 years ago. You had another top of the Atlantic Division type season last year. And now all of a sudden we make a bunch of changes, we give them to you, and now you're a bad coach. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. He may be overrated. Maybe those rosters played a little over their head, and they would have been good with any coach. I'll allow for that, but I don't think that he suddenly forgot how to coach and his system doesn't work anymore because what? Sweeney is kind of the common denominator here. They've had 3 coaches and they keep having the same problems. That's kind of annoying. And I think in this particular case, now you're starting to get, I've said this before, this is not the Bruins business model. The business model is win a bunch of games early in the season, get everybody all excited, and then disappoint them at the end of the year. You can't disappoint them now. You can't have people disengaging with the team now. That is not how it works here in Boston. That is not what the Jacobs have hired you to do. You got to get everybody hooked and excited for the first 2-3 months, and then at the end of the season, that's when you let them down, and that's when they all get disappointed.